Today in the morning I put out on a post on my own Facebook page with a question and a photo of this motorbike what I'm riding, and the question, what brand can it be? And honestly, from more than 4,000 friends of mine, nobody found out the correct answer. The brand of this motorbike is MBP, which may you never heard about. This is again a pretty old and again a new motorbike brand. Qianjiang concern, which is one of the biggest Chinese manufacturers, they are owning Keeway and for several years Benelli brands, and now they again reborn this MBP brand. MBP is Morbidelli Pesaro. This is the shortening of the original name, and this brand was founded by Morbidelli, who was a great Italian GP racer. The brand was originally founded in the 1960s, and of course they were bankrupted together with several other small Italian brands. But nowadays the Chinese manufacturer or giant Qianjiang reborn them, and let's see the first vehicle which arrived to Europe, the M502N. The biggest percent of my friends tipped that this bike was a Benelli because of the number inside the name of the bike, 502, because Benelli is also using for the 500 cubic centimeter category, the A2 category motorbikes, for example the TRK, they are using the 502 number, but this is not even the same engine, although it would be absolutely logic that after their launching of 500 they would build this new MBP 502N on the same technical basic, but they didn't do it. For example, not even the engine is the same, the cubic capacity is smaller. Here in the case of this bike, this is 486 cubic centimeters. The main construction is the same, so it's a parallel twin DOHC with 8 cylinders, and even the power and torque output is the same. The power is 48 brake horsepower, so it's on the limit of the A2 rider's license category, and the torque is also 45 Newton meter. The difference is that the power is coming on the same RPM, but the torque is coming on a much higher RPM than in the case of the Leoncino 500. So all in all, this is not the same engine, which is absolutely not clear for me logically in the case of the same concern. The big question is, what is this 48 brake horsepower and 45 Newton meter enough for? Let's pull the throttle a little. So when you used it, well, it was maybe 2/3 of the maximum throttle, 60-65%, so it was not a full acceleration at all. The truth is that these motorbikes, which are on the top of the A2 category, so the top of the 35 kilowatt power output, they are absolutely and fully enough for the everyday normal public road riding, even for enjoyable riding. Maybe with a passenger on the very top of the Transalpina, which is very going into the sky. Well, there 1000 or even 1200 or 1300 cubic centimeter is much better. But for the everyday riding, touring, mainly with one person, and the small naked bike like this is, let's be honest, is mainly for one person. So this power is totally enough, and this is the ratios are very good in the gearbox, because because the RPMs are normal traveling, not too high. At 100 kilometers per hour it's around 5,000, and on the Hungary legal highway speeds, so at 130 is just a little over 6,000, so they are not too high. It's really not suffer to travel with the bike at all. The suspension is coming from Kayaba, at least the front upside down telescopic forks. The travel of them is something like over 12 centimeters, and they are not as thick as the Marzocchi telescopic forks of the Benelli Leoncino, but they are working absolutely proper. And in the rear we have a central suspension unit, which is it seems that the preload can be changed, but we were searching pretty hard where to put the tools in, and we couldn't find the correct way. So anyhow, it seems that nothing is changeable, so you cannot set it up at all to your needs, but the whole suspension is doing its job so well on public roads that it's really a surprise for me. The comfort and the joyability inside the curves, and as it is keeping the line and everything else, is so good that that it's really unique in its middle naked bike class. Brake system, all the spare parts of it is coming from Hahuan or Qianjiang, or I don't know how to pronounce. This is a Spanish manufacturer with a pretty good name. Anyhow, all the spare parts are coming from them, together with the upper section and the downer section. In the downer section in the front we have two 30-centimeter brake discs, of course with ABS, and we do not have radial calipers or any magic, only two pistons per side, and of course in the rear we have one smaller disc. But anyhow, the brake efficiency, the dosability and everything, I'm just checking that nobody is coming behind me, is absolutely proper. So I show you, if you make a real emergency braking, it's really hard to keep yourself on the fuel tank. So it's a totally good the whole brake system without any kind of magic. And one more thing, which is a pretty big red dot for it, that both of the levers, so the front brake and the clutch, the position of the lever or the arms can be fixed not in steps but fluently, which is a really very good thing. The comfort of the bike is absolutely proper, because the seat height is not too much, so for me it's absolutely short, as you can see, or low, but even shorter guys and girls are going to reach the tarmac pretty well from it. And when you are sitting on the seat, the knee angle is not too sharp. Of course it is sporty for tall leg guys like me, but not uncomfortable at all. It's very easy to change the gears, and we have a pretty big brake pedal, only it is a little bit too high for me. Of course the position can be changed. So far it was a little bit too high, and during these more than 200 kilometers I nearly totally got accustomed to it, but I would put it a little bit lower. It's very easy to keep your body with your legs, so the leg contact is pretty good. The only problem is that the seat is, we can say, a little bit too hard, so it could be a little bit softer. I am over 200 kilometers, as I mentioned today, and it's a little bit too hard, I could say, but the upper body position with this high formed handlebar, it's absolutely proper, so it's totally straight, very relaxed. It's a very comfortable position for the upper body when you are riding lower speeds, but when you are starting to ride higher speeds, then you even have to move a little bit forward from your hip, that the wind should keep your upper body in its place at higher speeds. And one more little bit negative thing, that the mirrors are a little bit too narrow,
so from my shoulders I can see absolutely behind me in the traffic only when I pull my shoulder inside. Of course, we tested the bike with passenger as well, not myself, I was sitting in the front. My passenger was approximately 80 kilos. It was not too much for the suspension at all, our weight. And as he said, the position was a little bit better than I am looking at the moment. There is enough place for the legs, and even the footrests of the passenger are pretty good because they have rubber inside. So it's not only a small and only from iron made, but it's a pretty comfortable and good thing, and the passenger can even keep him or herself here. But this is not a perfect thing, just as the size of the passenger seat is also not the best in the world. For the buttons on the handlebar, we cannot say one thing that they are looking cheap or poor quality Chinese things. They are not looking them at all. They are absolutely good quality, feeling, the looking, the touching and everything else. And we get everything what we need on a motorbike. We even have an emergency indicator which is positioned on the left side. So when you want to communicate in the traffic with that, it's much better than on the right side. And everything is just fitted on your hands and working absolutely well. There is one switch on the right handlebar which is worth to mention, because we have a manual changing possibility for the lights. Here we have only the DRL. Here it is working automatically, so when it gets dark it switches off the normal light, and you can manually switch it to normal light all the time. But we have an automatic position for this, which is important. And let's speak a few words about the dashboard, which is a 4.2-inch colorful and pretty good pixel number dashboard. Of course it is an LCD, and it has two pictures. When it is sunshine it is white, and when it is getting darker, now in the shadow, we are in the shadow because otherwise you wouldn't really see it on the picture, then it is black. So this is the night, let's say, picture of it, and it's pretty informative. We can see the voltage, the fuel amount, we can see the speed with the lever and with number also, we can see the RPM with the lever again, the temperature of the cooling water, and we have an overall distance and the daily counter. The daily counter, only one we have, and you can only make it to 0, and in the middle we have a exact time or range which you can change, and under it there is the gear indicator, which is of course not working at the moment as the bike is in neutral, but anyhow it's a pretty informative dashboard.
There is a really big question that this very new brand, this MBP and its A2 category naked bike, which we make the review about, how much does it have a real place on the A2 category market at the moment? What are their rivals, and what about the prices and things like this? Because this is a new brand which still have to find its place, and its rivals already have their place on the market. So for example, one of its main rivals is inside the house, let's say, the Benelli Leoncino 500 with the smaller, so not the trail version, with the smaller front wheel. And that Leoncino in Hungary, just a little bit, only a few % more expensive, so the price difference is nothing, we can really say. So maybe the main difference is the style, if you like that classic style, or if you like this, let's say, much more sporty, or which is better. This style is maybe for better to young riders and things like this, but it's absolutely a question of what do you like and what do you prefer from the part of the looking. But for example, there is another rival of this bike which doesn't have a too big past or too famous past. The brand name is Honda, and they have a CB500 series, and the naked version of that is well, more or less the same very good bike as this. Maybe this MBP from the side of the suspension and the brakes, but mainly the suspension. Maybe this bike is a little bit better, but only a little bit better again than the Honda CB500. But in Hungary, the CB500 is pretty much more cheap than this bike. You of course have to check it in your own country. But anyhow, in that case, you might really think that why should I buy this bike if I can buy a Honda which already proved everything? Well, the big question nowadays in 2022, we now have a special era, because many customers, especially the big Japanese customers, have a lot of problems with the production because of the present situation, the war and everything else. And honestly, here in Hungary at the moment you cannot order a Honda, only for delivering sometime in next year, so it's nearly a year that you get your motorbike. But the Chinese can produce this M502N, and this is ready for production, and you can buy it anytime, at least here in Hungary. So from this point, this price difference has an absolutely new meaning, which means that if you can get accustomed to ride an unknown brand Chinese produced bike, which is a very good motorbike, then you have to check it in your own country and try it, because it is really worth for it.
If you like this very old and new brand, the MBP, and its first bike in Europe, the M502N, and if you liked our review about it, then please push a thumb up on it. In the description you can find a link where you can donate our work. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe for our channel and watch our previous contents, and thanks a lot for your kind attention.